I'll pay. I'll pay. Dough which was first sponge cake and in the end sponge cake is exempt from challah. First dough and in the end sponge cake. First sponge cake and in the end dough is liable to challah. And so are we kenuva cake liable. The misa flour paste shall be exempt, but Beis Hillel declares liable. The chalatza flour paste Beis Shammai declares liable, but Hillel exempts. The cakes of the thank offering and the wafers of the Nazarim, if he made them for himself, are exempt to sell on the market. They're liable. If a baker made leaven to divide it up, it is liable to challah. If women gave it to a baker to make for them leaven, if there was not of any of them sufficient measure, he's exempt from challah. Okay.
Hey, Isata Klavim. So this is dog dough. Okay. What is dog dough? Honestly, it doesn't seem to make sense because dogs don't eat dough. But it's some kind of animal food. And in general, it's a kind of an animal food. It's made out of very, very low quality grain. And to the point where it's borderline whether humans would eat it or not. And
Well,
that's
some of my cats like challah, so some of the cats like challah. So
yeah. Um, so the question is this borderline is it on the side that people will eat it or is it not? And that's where the halacha is going to pivot over. If the shepherds eat it, then it's like any other bread, and here come all the halachas. Chayeves b'chala, you have to take challah from it. Ma'arvin ba, you can make an eruv out of it. Right? You can make an eruv techumin or an eruv chatzeros. Um, and an Eir of Tavshilin as well. So all of these things require food. So once it falls into the category of human food, you can make an Erev out of it. Mishtafin ba, that's also part of Erevin. Mevarichin aleha, you make a bracha on it. Mezamnin aleha, and if you have one person who in the zimun who only ate this bread, then he counts for the zimun. Benas says Yom Tov, and you're even allowed to bake it on Yom Tov. Right? You're not allowed to bake food for animals. You're not allowed to do malacha for animal food. You're allowed to do malacha for human food. All of the things that you're allowed to do on Yom Tov is ochel nefesh, but that's specifically for humans. Okay. Nases b'Yom Tov. V'yotze ba adam yedei chovaso b'Pesach. And if it's baked into matzah, then then you can be yotze on it on Pesach. Im ein haroim ochlin mimena, if it's too low quality for even the shepherds to eat from it, so straight away all of these halachas get reversed. It's no longer considered human food, and therefore ein acheves b'chala, you don't have to take chala from it. Ein ma'arvin ba, you cannot make an eruv from it. Ein mishtafin ba, and you can, and same again with the eruvin. Ein mevarachin aleha, you can make a bracha on it. Ein mezamnin aleha, you cannot invite somebody to a zimun if they actually did eat from it. Ve'ein anases b'Yom Tov, and you cannot make this bread on Yom Tov. Ve'ein adam yotze ba yedei chovas Pesach, and even if you baked it into matzahs, you're not yotze on Pesach. But bein kach or bein kach mitama tumas ochlin. However, what do they do have in common, whether it's human food or animal food, is it is susceptible to food tuma. Okay, so um. Mishna Tes, ha challah v'hatruma. Okay, so what do we have in common between challah and truma? A lot, actually. In fact, pretty much everything is the same. Once challah has been separated and once truma has been separated, they have practically identical halacha. Chayiv on alein misav v'chomesh is that a zar who eats it is chayiv misav v'dei shemayim, and if he ate it, he also has to pay the extra chomesh. Okay. Vasurim Lazarim, of course, it's Asir Tazarim, Vahem Nichse Kohen, and it's property of the Kohen, which means that he's allowed to sell it. Okay, and he can get a monetary value. So it's not so once it's been given into his property and only a Kohen is allowed to eat it, but nonetheless he can trade it with other Kohanim for money, and it's not considered any kind of bizayon. Okay. As opposed to other things like Maaseh Sheni and Shemitah produce, which you're not allowed to go trading. But Olin be'echad u'meya, and their sheer bittul is 101. In other words, 100 versus 1. The Tu'unin rechitzas yadayim v'ha'arev shemesh, and the Kohanim have to wash their hands. And if they were tameh, they also have to wait until nightfall if they after they went to mikveh. Ve'ein nitalin min hatahor el hatame. And when you're separating, you're not allowed to take from tahor to give to the coin in order to exempt something else that's tame. Why?
Uh-huh.
Because of the chashash that you're going to be you're going to bring them together, and the tahor will become tame from touching the tame.
Oh,
And that ties in with the next halacha, and it also must be elamina mukaf. It must be taken from something close by. So you can't, and that's why we have the issue of taking from the tahor on the tame, because it has to be mina mukaf. They have to be close.
uh,
And it has to be from a completed item, or something where at least the dough is completed. Okay, just like, and also like truma is that if you're going to be pressing the grapes, you don't take truma from the grapes, you take truma from the wine.
right.
Yeah. Ha'omer kol garni truma v'chol isasi chala lo amar klum ad yishayer miktas. So we learned in Maseches Trumas that you are uh, that there was a machlokes between all the different between three different views. One they said, what's the maximum that you're allowed to give as truma? And one said 10%, and one said 50%, and the other and Rabbi Akiva was the final opinion, who said everything you can leave over just a little bit, and that's fine as long as you leave something over. But so his is the accepted halacha, and that's the halacha that we're quoting over here, which is that you can't give everything. You have to leave something over.
Mm.
Okay. Next up, Perik base. Peres chutz laaretz, shenichnas laaretz. What happens if you have grain that was grown in chutz laaretz and was brought into Eretz Israel in order to make dough? Chayavim challah. So this you have to make challah, because the dough was formed in Eretz Israel, and therefore
Okay.
that's where the chiyuv takes hold. Challah, by the way, midoraisa is only in Eretz Israel. They take challah in chutz laaretz midrabanan.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. And that's why we also have certain kulas by taking challah in chutz laaretz, that if it's Shabbos, and you realize, oh wait, I don't think I took challah from this dough, you're allowed to leave some over and separate it after Shabbos, where you can't do that in Eretz Yisrael. If it stays in its table over Shabbos, and that's it. It's
Good.
you can't do anything until Motzei Shabbos. I think that's the halacha, but I may be wrong, but that's just what I remember. Anyway, Peres Chutzlaret, so we said Chayvim L'Chala, Yatsu Mikan Sham. What happens if the grain was grown in Eretz Yisrael, and they exported the flour and turned it into dough in Chutzlaretz? Okay, so now we have a machlokes, Rabbi Eliezer Mechayev, Rabbi Akiva Poter. And halacha is like Rabbi Akiva, that it goes all according to the place where the dough was made, and even if the grain originally came from Eretz Israel, it's still pater from challah altogether.
Works the opposite way.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
But
Yeah.
in other words, it only so if you look at the logic of it, Rabbi Eliezer says either or. Either the flour is from Eretz Yisrael, or the dough is made in Eretz Yisrael and you're chayav. Rabbi Akiva says it doesn't matter where it comes from. What the only thing that matters is where the dough is made.
Man. Okay. Hmm. Hey, Meister Shani. Dalid Yud Aleph. If one finds a vessel on which was written Kaf, Korban, Mem, Misa, Dalet, Damai, Tet, Tevel, Tav, Truma, since in times of danger they would write Tav instead of Truma, Rabbi Yossi says all these names are of people. Rabbi Yossi says even if one found a jar full of produce and Truma was written on it, it is Kulin because we presume that last year it was full of Truma produce and he removed it. Karen Rabai was, let's skip one. If one says to his son, Meister Sheni is in that corner, and he found it in another corner, it's Kulin. If he there was a mana and he found 200, the serpent says Kulin. 200 and he found a mana, it is all Meiser. Karen Mavai is marked with clouds of earth, orla with clay and grazed with lime, that which he dissolves and pours out. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamil says, when does it supply? In the seventh year. The scrupulous put down money and say, whatever is gathered from this shall be redeemed with this money. Okay.
Right. Trumos, Yod Aleph, Aleph.
One may not put fig cake or dried cakes into fish brine because he spoils them, but one may put wine into brine. One may not perfume oil, but one may make wine into honeyed wine. And one may not boil truma wine because it diminishes it, and Rabbi Yehuda permits because he improves it. Date honey, apple wine, and winter grape vinegar, and all other fruit juices of truma, Reb Eliezer declares them liable to the value, and they added fifth, but Reb Yeshua exempts. Reb Eliezer declares them unclean as liquids, and Reb Yeshua says the sages did not count the seven liquids as those who count spices, but they said that seven kinds of liquids are unclean, and all the other liquids are clean. One may not turn dates into honey, or apples into wine, or winter grapes into vinegar, and no other fruit or truma or meiser sheni may be changed from its natural state, excepting only olives and grapes. One does not receive 40 lashes on account of ola, excepting for what issues from olives and grapes. No liquid is brought for Bakurim except for what issues from olives and grapes, and nothing is rendered unclean as a liquid except what issues from olives and grapes, and one does not offer up on the altar except what issues from olives and grapes.
Okay. Demai.
You learning a lot over there, Gigi? Okay, Demai. If two persons rented a field as sharecroppers or inherited or became partners, they can say, "You can take the wheat which is in this place, and I'll take the wheat in that place. You the right, you the wine in this place, and I the wine in that place." But he may not say to him, "You take the wheat, and I take the barley. You take the wheat, and I take the oil." If a Chavi and Amaretz inherit from their father who was an Amaretz, he can say to him, "You take the wheat in this place, and I the wheat in this place. You take the wine in this place, and I take the wine in that place." But he may not say to him, "You take the wheat, and I take the barley. You take the moist, and I take the dry." A proselyte, a non-Jew inherited from the father who was a non-Jew, he can say, "You take the idols, and I the money. You take the wine, and I the produce." But after they have come into the possession of the proselyte, it is forbidden.
Okay.
Okay, my guy, Yud. Not the guy that appeared on Caracas or on a Gabakas become confined tummy for 2 weeks and are confined tummy with two symptoms: living skin or expansion. What is Caracas? If he ate he applied Neshim or his skin, or he receives a scar on his hair, cannot grow. So right there, the scar on the hair on which hair could not grow. What is Caracas? From the crown sloping backward until the vertebrae of the neck. What is Kabakis? From the crown sloping forward until the hairline. Caracas and Kabakis do not combine with one another, nor do they spread from one to another. Rabbi Yehuda says if there's a hair between them, they do not combine. If not, they do combine. All garments become tummy from the Gaim except those of Gentiles. Clothing purchased from a Gentile should be examined initially. The skins of sea creatures do not become tummy when a Gaim, and if one attached something that grows on land to the sea skin, even a thread or a string, anything that is generally susceptible to tuma, it is tummy. Camel's wool and sheep's wool that were mixed together, if the majority is from camels, they do not become tummy from the Gaim. If the majority is from sheep, they become tummy from the Gaim, and if the wool is mixed half and half, they become tummy with the Gaim. And the same applies to linen and hemp that were mixed together. Okay. Yeah. And then we are on to Abos.
Hmm.
Abos, hey, head. 7 types of punishment come to the world on account of 7 distinct sins. If one tithe and do not tithe, a famine of drought appears, in which some are hungry and some are satiated. If they decide not to tithe, a famine of confusion and of drought comes. If they decide not to separate challah, a famine of destruction comes. Pestilence comes to the world on account of the execution stated in the Torah, which were not given over to the court, and on account of the produce of the 7th year. The sword comes to the world on account of delaying justice, on account of averting justice, and on account of those who render Torah decisions counter to halacha. Savage beasts come to the world on account of vain oaths, and on account of the desecration of the name of God. And exile comes to the world on account of those who worship idols, on account of illicit relations, on account of murder, and on account of the abandonment of the land. At 4 times pestilence is increased in the 4th year, in the 7th year, at the departure of the 7th year, and at the departure of the 6th year, in the 4th year, because of Maisa Ani in the 3rd year, in the 7th year, because of Maisa Ani in the 6th year, at the department of the 7th year, because of the produce of the 7th year, and a departure of Sukkot each year because of stealing the gifts of the poor. There are four types of man. One who says, what is mine is mine, and what is yours is yours. This is average behavior. Some say this is the behavior of Sodom. What is mine is yours, and what is yours is mine is an ignoramus. What is mine is yours, and what is yours is a pious person. What is mine, and what is mine is a wicked person. Okay. Okay. All right. And we have the Yom Ramos. Okay. Um, it says Zion Aleph. Says Vav, no, Zion, says Zion. A woman whose husband and co-wife went overseas and they came to her and said, your husband died, may not marry or be taken in Yibum until she knows if her co-wife is pregnant. If she has a mother-in-law, she need not concern herself. However, if she is departed while pregnant, she must concern herself. Rabbi Yeshua says she may not consider it. If there were two sisters-in-laws and one stated, my husband died, each one is prohibited to marry because of the other's husband. If one had witnesses but the other did not, the one with witnesses prohibited to marry, whereas the one without witnesses is permitted if he had children but the other did not. The one with children is permitted to marry, where the one without children is prohibited. If they were taken in Yibum and the Yibum then died, they are prohibited from remarrying. Elazar says, since they were permitted to the Yavayim, Yavayim, they are permitted to all men. One may only testify that a man is dead if he saw the face and nose, even if they are identifying marks on the body or clothing. One may only testify that a man is dead if he actually saw him dead, but not if he saw him cut, hanging, or being devoured by a wild beast. One may only testify if he saw the body within 3 days. If Yehuda ben Bava says not all men or areas of times are alike.
Okay,
Okay, good.
okay, I can.